Hello and welcome to Moving Kentucky Forward. I'm Bruce Maples, publisher of Forward Kentucky. We know that even though the midterms were better than expected for Democrats across the country, they were not too good for Democrats in Kentucky. The Republican redistricting did exactly what we suspected it would do. It knocked out a number of incumbents and candidates that were running for state office, especially the state house. One of the obvious targets of the Republican redistricting was Democratic women. It seems obvious they have a problem with strong women. One person, though, was able to overcome the redistricting and succeeded in getting reelected, albeit by a very small number of votes. I wanted to find out how this person was able to do this. So we talked with Cherlynn Stevenson, who's going back to Frankfort in January. Let's hear from Cherlynn. So we're here today with Cherlynn Stevenson, who just beat the odds and won her last election by not too much.
No,
Cherlynn,
not at all.
welcome to Moving Kentucky Forward.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on, Bruce.
So I think we need to call you Wonder Woman or Cardiac Cherlynn or something. Uh,
Yeah.
you won in 2020 by how many votes?
In 2020, I won by 930 votes. In 18, I won by 48 votes.
That's the one I'm remembering.
That's the one that you're thinking of. So 48 to 930, and then new district to 35. So I have had quite a few people calling me Landslide Stevenson.
Well, that's actually probably accurate. That's a good deal. I think calling you Cardiac Cherlynn will be good too. So,
That's appropriate for me because in 18 and last Tuesday, I had many heart attacks.
yeah,
I'll let you know.
yeah. So, okay, we all know, and I wrote about it a couple of days ago. We all know that the Republicans drew the redistricting lines to get rid of Democratic women. I mean, that was their goal.
It was very obvious.
And they succeeded in every race, as far as I can tell, except one, and that's yours.
Yeah.
And when I wrote about it, I said, Cherlynn Stevenson gets to say F you to all the Republicans in Frankfort. So I wanted to have you on so you could tell us, what did you do? I mean, was it massive amounts of money? Was it lots of ads? Was it tremendous lit drops? How did you pull this off with a whole new district?
Well, I have an absolutely incredible team, and some people think that I have an army. It is a small but mighty group of people who just refuse to stop. Several of them are retired teachers. My husband, I say all the time that my husband is my greatest volunteer and my biggest cheerleader, and we just have a really strong work ethic. So we knocked on over 24,000 doors.
Mm.
And
we, as in not you and your husband,
so
you and your entire team.
The team, and we had a few people that came out 3 or 4 times. We had, a lot of folks that just came out one time. But for the most part, my husband and I, my dad was involved off and on. They don't live here in Lexington, so when he could get down, he was coming. But that group of, of educators, many of them were out every single day. One of them definitely knocked over 4,000 doors herself.
Wow.
One of them was not too far behind. A couple of them actually were not too far behind. So, I mean, just amazing. And they have been with me since 2018. So this was their 3rd election with me. I think that they are excellent surrogates for me. They know me really well. I am actually in a text thread with them that goes all day long, every single day.
Sure.
So they know me really well, and they can talk about me and my platform really well. And sometimes I think that they're probably better at talking about me than I am at talking about myself. Sometimes it's really hard to talk about yourself in really positive ways. But they're great. So we, in 18 and in this race, nothing could not have not been done, from the massive amounts of door knocks and having those conversations at the door. I mean, that is tremendous. There's nothing that replaces that. Absolutely nothing that replaces that. But having direct mail, having digital ads, having, people who write postcards, having a strong social media presence, there's all of it. There are so many things that you do. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. But,
Yep.
we all know that as people, we absorb information in different ways. And so you have to try to get to these group of people. You have to try to hit them in all kinds of different ways so that they hear that and they see that. So we did a lot of things very similar to what we did in 18 and trying to get out and get to people, trying to put name recognition in front of people. Obviously, we know, I think psychology tells us that people need to see something at least 7 times before the brain realizes it. So, newspaper ads, again, social media paid ads, as well as ads that pop up on as you're Googling something or you're reading the paper or you're watching Hulu or Netflix and something pops up and you have to see it. So there wasn't a tremendous amount of money put into the race. I mean, it's a decent amount of money, and it honestly, it makes me ill because every time I write a big check, I think about how many hungry kids could eat for that amount of money.
Right.
And that really bothers me. But there, to my knowledge, there wasn't a super PAC behind me. There was a super PAC working against me, and there were several other entities I know that were mailing on behalf of my opponent and against me. So there was definitely more money spent on their side. That's for sure. But I have said really often, nobody's going to outwork me and my team. They're just not going to. And I think that's what it was.
So let me ask you, you said 24,000 doors knocked. In what time frame? Are we talking since the primary, before the primary?
Since before the primary, we actually started knocking doors, introducing me to new people before session was over last year. So in early March, as soon as the weather was palatable for all of us to get out, we started and we knew we had all of these people that had to be introduced to me again, brand new. As it's not like people aren't just paying attention to Frankfort and the General Assembly all the time.
Right.
So you don't get to be a household name per se. So just a lot of people that we needed to say, hey, did you know every 10 years after the census, the General Assembly draws new lines and they have been redrawn, and your new House rep is Cherlynn Stevenson. And here's a little about her. Here's the things that she fights for in Frankfort, and here's how you get in touch with her. So that was how we started. We started in the new parts of the district, and we just started with that message. And when that was over, we just ran straight into persuasion and went from there. And then we had folks that stayed on persuasion the entire time through, and then we did some GOTV work at the end. But
so the district that you wound up with, I'm correct in saying it was redder than the one you had. Is that correct?
Yes, and yes and no. Registration wise, it was very similar to what I had in 18, but I think the old 88 had more suburban population than rural. And so there was a lot more rural in this. And as we know, rural voters and suburban voters are not the same. So
when you did your door knocking, I ran for office in 2014, so I'm somewhat familiar with field and door knocking and so on and so forth. And there are different opinions about it, about how to go about it.
Yes.
I want to ask you which strategy you use. There's the turn out the base strategy. So you basically only knock doors of people registered as Democrats, and you really work at getting them to come out. And then there's the I assume they're going to come out, and I'm going after the middle and the non-voters. I'm trying to get the people who don't vote to come out.
Yeah.
So which strategy did you use, or some other strategy?
It was mostly a let's talk to anybody. Let's just talk to as many people as we can. Obviously, there was some targeting in there. There are some people that are going to vote Republican no matter what, and you're never going to get their vote. But we also know that there are a lot of people out there who want to vote for the person, not necessarily the party. There's a lot of independent voters out there. So we were just trying to talk to anybody and everybody that would listen to us. And we knew that in doing so, you absolutely run the chance of having a door slammed in your face. It's been done. Was it the first time? Won't be the last time, I'm sure. So, but again, I have some folks that are just really committed, and they're ready and willing and able to have really hard conversations. There are Republicans on my team. There are independents on my team. So the old 88th was pretty purple, and so it translates. My Eastern Kentucky heritage, I think, translates really well to a district that looks like this. Not, it's never been royal blue. Will never be royal blue, probably. And I have really done my best to try to match the district and match what the people here want. I very much believe that the title that we hold is representative, and that's what we're supposed to do. I'm not supposed to go in there and vote how I want to vote. I'm there to carry the voice of those people forward and represent them. And I've tried to do that to the best of my ability, and feel like I have. And I feel like, that jump that I was able to have from 18 to 20, that 900 and right, by almost 900 votes. I think obviously there were a lot of people who watched how I conducted myself and the way that I voted, and they felt comfortable in voting for me.
That's a fascinating thought. I will be watching in 2022 to see if you have the same, incumbent jump.
So we'll see. And the thing, it was something that was difficult. Is obviously we did not have precinct level data from 20 here. Right. I think Louisville folks maybe did, but I don't think anybody else in the state did. So I have no idea where those increased votes came from, which is really interesting. So we were just we were kind of flying blind in that, but the large bulk of the votes did come actually from my legacy precincts. I kept 16 precincts, and they are very populated here around where I live in the Hamburg-ish area. And then obviously I had a Town Branch, which is heavily populated back at the end of right, East Town Road here in Lexington. And then, Georgetown is pretty populated. I did not win a single precinct in Scott County, but there were many that I lost only by single digits. Well, and considering that those are all pink or red, we feel like we did a pretty dang good job.
Yes. So let me ask you a question. Did the campaign change? Did the feel on the street change after the Dobbs decision?
A little bit it did. I have been somebody, I have voted consistently in the House, but I haven't been super vocal about that. And I felt like it was time that I really needed to make that change. And so I told everybody on my team, if you're at a door and you're comfortable talking about it, then talk about it. And I think every woman has a story. Every woman knows someone in special circumstances that, has almost died from an ectopic pregnancy. every scenario that we can imagine. One of my super volunteers lost her very first baby, and it had, a big genetic defect, and there was a great possibility that her next baby would have one. And so she was pretty open about talking about the fact that, back then she didn't get to know, but if the situation were reversed now, would she choose to have a baby that she knew was going to live in pain for 2 days? She would say probably not, that she would choose to spare, that. And so, it's just a very personal decision. And so I think I gave the freedom to my volunteers to make that personal to them and make that choice, how they wanted to talk about it. But the big thing for me, and I told everybody, if you get questions about it and you're uncomfortable, please have them call me. Listen, my phone number, my personal cell phone number went out on every single piece of that literature.
Wow.
And so just tell people to call me and we'll talk about it. But having exceptions is a big deal to me personally. Everybody can feel how they want to feel about abortion in any other way, but making children have children, or being okay with women dying, I'm not okay with that, with either scenario.
When you were knocking doors yourself, did it come up much
it did.
in those door knocks?
It did. And obviously because of the amendment, we talked about it a lot. A lot of people were really worried about it. And here's a story that I will tell. So in 18 and 20, when you would talk to people, we got the question a lot, and it would be, you'd knock the door, you'd give your little spiel, and so many people, before they would ask any question, what are you? Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican?
Yeah.
And when I would say, I'm a Democrat, sorry, we don't vote for Democrats in this house. This time around, almost every single time that the question was asked and we said Democrat, the answer was, thank God. I mean, it completely changed. It was happening to all of us, and it was really interesting. And people would then go on, and their explanations would be varied. But it was really interesting that was a big change. And I think that the Dobbs decision had a lot to do with that.
So if you were advising Kentucky Democrats or a new Democratic candidate or whatever, what advice would you give them for winning in Kentucky as a Democrat?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to be willing to work really, really, really hard. I'll be honest. I did not know it was possible to be as tired as I have been after last Tuesday. I wasn't sleeping. It was really stressful. And so you have to be, it is almost a full-time job to run for office in a district like this. And I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's, behind about it. You got to be willing to work really hard. You got to be willing to do the work to get out and talk to people, but you also got to be willing to do the work to raise the money. You have to have money. And I hate that. But in order to be competitive, again, you have to be able to do all of the things. There are none of those things that can get left out. You have, you have to do mail, you have to do digital, you have to do all of these things. But, you have to find a team that's willing to help you. You're never going to get it done if there's 3 people that are willing to knock doors for you. And so that is a message to candidates, but that is a message to Democrats, period. If we're going to gain seats in the House and try to work back toward a majority at any point, people have to put down their computer, put down their phone, get off of social media, and get out in the field and put their boots on the ground and help candidates.
Good. Yep. All right. So I'm thinking that I need to go downtown to the place that makes signs. There's a shop downtown that makes all the badges for Metro Council members and, candidates and all this stuff. And it's this nice brass looking thing, even though it's plastic. And I'm thinking I need to go down there and get a nameplate for your door in Frankfort, something like, Superwoman Stevenson or Cherlynn the Mighty or something.
I would appreciate that. I would display it proudly.
I may just do that just for the fun of it. So I won't ask you tough questions like who's the leadership going to be and so on and so forth. That's all yet to be determined. And we all know that you're going back to even less power than you all had before. I will say this. I don't know if you have checked out our bill tracker that we run during the session, but it has a statistics thing on it that I thought was interesting. It divides up how many bills pass that are supported only by Republicans, how many bills pass where the sponsor is a Democrat, and how many bills pass that are bipartisan, that have both sponsorships. And in the last session, the number of bipartisan bills actually went up.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, and maybe that's a good sign for the future.
I hope so. I really hope so. I believe that the people of Kentucky, even though we are divided, and there's a clear divide on that, but I think if people really got to vote, the way that they really are, I think these maps obviously slant our General Assembly, and so. But I think that ultimately people vote for us to go to Frankfort, to work together, to move our state forward, to, not necessarily for a progressive agenda, but they want to see progress. They want to see us moving forward. They want to see us doing positive things for themselves, for their families, for their communities. And I think it's a huge disservice to the public when we go there and just dig our heels in to try to stay in a silo. I think we have got to try to do a better job of finding consensus and building bridges where we can. And that there's always going to be those wedge issues that really separate us. And obviously in election years, which, we have 3 out of 4, 3 out of every 4 years is an election year. And so those things are always going to pop up and be used in a political way for just that reason, to be divisive, to give talking points and things like that. But we really need to do a better job of trying to come together and do what people want. And I think 2 things that are very, very much at the top of that list when you look at the landscape, I think Kentuckians overwhelmingly want to see a medical cannabis bill, and I think they also overwhelmingly want to see us pass sports betting. And the fact that we have one chamber that refuses to hear either bill is a daggone shame.
What was the second thing?
Sports betting.
Sports betting. Okay. Well, yes,
both of them poll like in the 90%, like 90% of Kentuckians want those things. And the fact that we are not delivering on that for Kentuckians is, it's shameful.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a small minority of the state, but it's a majority caucus that blocks both of them. And it's across the aisle. It's not just Republicans, although they seem to do it more.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to throw one last question at you. It's one of my favorite questions to ask any legislator or candidate. So you're going back to Frankfort in January.
Yep.
So I'm giving you a giant magic wand, and you can do anything you want. There's no time, money, nothing. So if you had that magic wand, what would you do in January in Frankfort?
Oh my goodness. There are so many possibilities.
Well, name two.
I know. I would really need to think about that. But I would be sure that every single person had excellent health care. That would be, probably my biggest thing, because a healthy Kentucky gives us to a lot of other things. But first and foremost, if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. So I would want every single Kentuckian to have excellent health care. That would probably be my big thing. And then, oh goodness, I try to do something to take care of our teachers and to to protect public education. I just hate seeing what's going on. Our teachers are so overwhelmed. They do not feel supported. Many of them will tell you they do not feel supported by their local administrations, and they do not feel supported by the General Assembly. And I just hate that, because our teachers are amazing. They do so much. They put up with so much. The future of Kentucky is in their classrooms right now. And we have got to find ways to attract and retain the best and the brightest. Our students don't deserve anything less. But again, that's the future of Kentucky. That's our economic development. That's our doctors. That's our nurses. That's our police officers and our firefighters. Everybody. And I do not begrudge anyone who sends their children to private school. I think it's wonderful if you can give kids that opportunity and you choose to do so. But I think that we have a constitutional obligation to provide an excellent system of common schools. And it is absolutely my goal that Kentucky offers a world-class education to every single student, no matter where they live, where they come from, how much money their family has.
Good. Those are two good things. And you're right. If I had a magic wand, there's a whole bunch of other things I might throw in there too. But if we could start with those two, and the medical marijuana and the sports betting, let's get those in there.
Yeah. Well, I feel like having access to excellent medical care and health care, for me, that includes the ability, people having access to medical cannabis, because there are, I believe that there are absolutely things that is the best medicine that patients could have to ease suffering, to ease, just a lot of their ailments. And it's criminal that we're withholding it from them.
Cherlynn Stevenson, Wonder Woman,
Thank
Cardiac
you.
Cherlynn. So thank you for being with us. And good luck in January. May have you back on to talk about what things are like once you get back.
I would be more than happy to do so. Thanks, Bruce.
All right.
Bye.
That was Cherlynn Stevenson, recently reelected to the Kentucky House. We thank her for her time and her honest answers, and especially for giving us insight into how she pulled off that election, even as narrow as it was. Perhaps all of us can take some lessons from the things she shared. Our next show is going to have Robert Connie back on. He did a show with us last week analyzing the election results, and we realized when we had stopped recording that we never talked about the mayor's races or the judicial races. So there's still some things to unpack about the election. So we'll have Robert Connie on next week. If you want to see more of these, you can go to our channel on YouTube, or you can go to the website and look under the media pages, and we have a page for Moving Kentucky Forward as well as our other media offerings. That's all for this week. See you again soon.